This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Hello, this is your host, Harry Wilkinson, and welcome once again, I hope, to the Spirit and Wellness Show. Or if you're new to our show, welcome for the first time. This is the show in which we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world of politics, in the world of health, and the worlds of international finance. It's everything that we interact with through news stories and the media and everything else that we have to deal with, including the new media now, which includes social websites like Facebook and Twitter and all of those things that are increasingly, I won't say encroaching, although sometimes it does feel like an encroachment, but these are the things that are making our instantaneous connections more and more manifest, if you will. Because from a spiritual perspective, when we would talk about, how we are all connected, there's a connection between everybody, and we all part of sort of this one mind. It is it was at best an allegory, or a nice idea. Now you have actual concrete, materialistic reflection of that idea. So the concept behind this show is coming from the perspective of our collective oneness, and coming from a metaphysical perspective. We take a look at what we're creating, which is what these stories and these and the information that we get around us is really, we're telling stories about ourselves to ourselves, and we're creating a world which is from a metaphysical perspective, again, it's illusory. It isn't the real truth of us. It's a reflection of that through which we experience things. And the more you experience, the greater awareness you obtain. So in going into some of these stories which you might initially perceive as negative, or that may push buttons in you that make you think in the dualistic idea of positive, negative, bad, good, that kind of thing, the more you can go into those and take energy from them and also from that idea, you begin to understand that the idea of good, bad, positive, negative itself is, ultimately, in many ways, an illusion too. It's all about energy, and it's all about recognizing that energy for what it is, and the stories we tell about it, the creations we use, that energy to make. So we're going to talk about that idea in the concept of the power of words too, because it plays nicely into this week's subject. But what I wanted to also talk about was that we were off last week, but the week before on our episode that had to deal with mental wellness. Pardon me. I got a lot of very positive feedback from it, so I thank everyone who took time to chime in about that. And I have heard you, and I realize that it seems to be, if not the most popular episode I've ever done, at least up there, one of the top 10. So I definitely will go back and go back into that topic and discuss it more, particularly as this show expands, which I hope to be able to do in the new year, to expand, to include interviews with people active in a variety of fields that have to do with this spiritual perspective I'm talking about, as well as wellness. I hope to focus more on the wellness aspect of things than I have in the past. I've been more focused on perhaps news stories and how to deal with them, because to me that's an aspect of wellness. Your peace of mind is truly important, and a lot of the things that have been happening, internationally, around the world, have been quite upsetting to a lot of people. And because we live in an environment now where it's not like you can not hear about these things. It's all around you. And so I felt, to me, that a big part of wellness was establishing a framework for dealing with information that may at first seem to be upsetting or difficult or challenging to assimilate and to deal with. So that's my reasoning behind the focus that I've had on this show. But I feel that it's changing, and I feel that there's going to be in the future more of a focus on wellness than there has been in the past, of traditional ideas of wellness. In other words, talking about how to prevent various symptoms, how to deal with other afflictions in a way that is healthy and healthful, and does not require intensive use of chemicals. I think as a society we need to be moving away from that. I believe we are. And it's easier in some circumstances than it is in others. But the use of chemicals is going to, as we go forward, is going to be very problematic in so many ways, because as detailed as scientific research can be, the pharmaceutical industry is also a business that wants to make money. That's one part of it. And the other part of it is, whenever you use chemicals on the human body, and any researcher will tell you this, any good researcher will tell you this, whenever you use chemicals on the human body, you do not know with any certainty what effects they're going to have. That's why when you see these drug commercials on television, late at night, and they're talking about this wonderful new drug they have that will help you to control your blood pressure, or keep your cholesterol in check, or whatever else it promises to do, you have a list as long as 2 arms of the possible side effects, anything from sudden death to loss of sleep, or loss of energy, or loss of libido. Folks, there's got to be a better way, and there is. It's all around us. The information is there, everywhere. There are good folks like Dr. Andrew Weil and other people who are bringing this information to the fore. Dr. Weil's approach is, I think, meaningful at this period of time, because he does combine an understanding of alternative approaches with, a pragmatic point of view on traditional approaches. He's not saying, throw your blood pressure medicine out the window. He's saying that there are things you can do to mediate the effects, or perhaps, you can reevaluate the need for such medications that are less toxic, are less a shock to the system, and more supportive. So, I'm going to try to focus more on some of those aspects of wellness as well. But I do want to talk about this power of words issue because what has come to me out of this election cycle, and it's not limited to this election cycle. It's it's something that has been going on for quite some time. I would say over the past, really the past 25 years, where we have seen a level of discourse, as they say, which is profoundly disturbing, which is getting more and more coarse. I don't even want to say coarse. I want to say it's getting more and more destructive. And I think the reason I pointed out for this election cycle is because I think it really has crystallized to such a point that this election cycle with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, which basically thrives on insults, name-calling, denigration of one person or the other, it really crystallizes where we are and what has happened. So, bear with me, quick sort of history lesson about all of this. In my parents' day, using language, coarse language, using words that were considered to be off color or swear words or what have you, that was considered to be rude and uncivil. It was considered to be, impolite at best. Okay. And in society, you didn't use that sort of language. And the only time you did use that language would be among maybe people who were in your close circle. People who would understand, or just people who would not be offended by what you might say. And otherwise, when you're out in the world and you're talking to people, you make an effort to be, to speak positively. You make an effort to be respectful. And you make an effort to be polite. Now, somewhere along the line, as we got further on from that generation, politeness itself went from being something that was a social, plus necessity in many ways, to being a sign of phoniness. If you were being polite to someone, you weren't being real. Then all of a sudden the dichotomy became, the mindset became that being polite was covering up for something. That, being polite to another person, being respectful to another person, was being false to another person, because you weren't really telling them the truth. And while there are certain times when that might be, there are also certain times, I think most of the time, when that's just simply not the case. Being polite to someone used to be a sign of respect, And I understand that there are cases where, someone's being respectful